Welcome to Playing Above the Line's very first mini-series. I'm Alan, your host, and this episode is one of 10 we're recording with T.R. Miller's legendary football coach, Jamie Riggs. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. This episode is sponsored by Hope Realty and Development. Whether you're selling or buying land or homes, Melissa McMillan and Pat Reeves are here to help. You can visit www.hoperealtydevelopment.com to see their listings or call 251-236-0195 to get in touch.
For years, I had a ninth grade football class at T.R. Miller, and it was in that ninth grade class that I tried to do some kind of classroom setting things with them. We talked about attitude and self-image, and I'd sit down and give them something written, and we would go over it and talk about it, and then we would try to take some of those lessons that we'd learned and take them out to the field. And so I thought that was an important way, and so we did that with that class. And I'm not sure what brought about this, but the beginning of the 2015 season, which was my last one, we were playing Andalusia opening game, and we ended up losing the game, and we actually got shut out. We hadn't been shut out since 1987 or something. Wow. So it wasn't a good start to the season. But to those guys' credit, they came back and had a great season. But that night, the night before, I took one of our intangibles we talked about sometime and kind of put it together in an essay here. And so this one's called Class. I just thought that it's something we don't hear a lot about anymore. I think back in the 60s and 70s, even in the 80s, we heard a little bit more about it, but you don't really hear this term very much.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you what, a theme throughout Miller, in my time anyway, is I don't care if you're talking about football or baseball or band or cheerleading or academics. I heard more than one time, you may beat us, but you'll never outclass us. And so class is important for sure.
So this one is entitled Class. Many years ago, the word class was a common term used in our society as well as in athletics. It was certainly used for many years in descriptions of football players and football teams. A player was said to have class, or a team was considered to be a classy team. The desire of individuals or teams to play with class was many times the deciding factor in their success. Webster's dictionary defines class as excellence in character and behavior, to bear oneself with dignity in all situations. One of the best things that could ever be said about you or your team is that you have class. Class is respect for others. It is a deep and genuine respect for every human being, regardless of their stature in life. On a football team, this means that each player should respect their teammates, their coaches, the managers, and everyone associated with the team. You should respect the role of each person on the team because they are all important to the overall success of the squad. If you have respect for people, they in turn will respect you. It will be much easier for you to respect yourself. Class is having manners. It is always saying thank you and please. It is the use of yes sir, no sir, or yes ma'am or no ma'am to adults and other people who may be in positions of authority. Having manners also means complimenting others for a task that is well done. Class is treating every other person as you want him to treat you in a similar situation. It is recognizing situations where someone might not be treating another person properly and coming to the aid and support of that individual. Class never makes excuses for one's own shortcomings, but it always helps the other person bounce back from their mistakes. Class never brags or boasts about one's accomplishment. If you have accomplished something important, others will take notice. It won't be necessary for you to blow your own horn. Class never tears down or diminishes the achievements of another person. Class does not depend on money, success, or ancestry. The wealthiest person in town may not know the meaning of the word, but the poorest may radiate class in everything he does. If you have class, everyone will know it, and you will have self-respect as well as the respect of others. If you are without class, people will tolerate you for a while and then gradually remove themselves from your life. Sooner or later, the only ones around you will be the other people who have no class. What little you accomplish in life will have very little meaning. In athletics, we have forgotten about sportsmanship. I watch big-time coaches being interviewed and blame the officials for a loss. I have viewed well-known athletes saying that they feel they should win an award. I see players catch a pass or make a tackle and taunt their opponent. Later in the game, when things go against those same players, they will sit on the bench, put a towel over their head to hide. We have these things today because coaches have allowed them to happen. Many of them have shirked their duty to teach class to their players. They care only about wins and will tolerate almost anything to get them. But in all honesty, it's hard to teach something that you don't believe in yourself. If we want the future generations to care about something other than themselves, we need to return to the schools and athletic programs that make the teaching of class a priority again.
That's a great story. And I guess I've got a couple of questions for you. I'm just interested in what your insight is. You know, you mentioned in the intro that we really don't hear a lot about class anymore. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it because it's hard? Why don't more people talk about having class or participating with class and whatnot? Why do you think that is?
I just think that we've lost some of the discipline of what we do and how we do. And I think that sportsmanship has become less important as a general rule. Victories and wins and money and things have become more important. Everything filters down. Mm-hmm. And as the NFL kind of lost some of its class with things, the colleges did the same thing, the high schools did the same thing because we all see them on television. And I just think that as that changed over time, you've got coaches that, especially some of the younger coaches, just they really don't have an understanding, I think, of how important that is. When I first started coaching, this was a big thing, you know, and 25 years later, it was a lot less important in a lot of areas.
So really, I mean, what you're saying is then winning and success and financial things have all trumped class, really, is kind of what you're saying.
We always believed we need to win.
We all win.
Right. But it's also important how you win.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of times when we would play someone, we would get a big lead. You know, what's enough points to score against somebody in a high school football game? Mm-hmm. When you know that at some point in time, it's pretty obvious that they're not going to get close to you. And, you know, so there are a lot of decisions made about that in athletics that people don't really think about a lot. You know, to be able to do things like that and, you know, how your team plays. How does your team go about dealing with the officials? Mm-hmm. Do they talk to the other team? Today, you know, this trash talk stuff's like a big deal. And, you know, so there are a lot of issues that coaches deal with, and some don't deal with it at all. They just kind of deal with it as it goes by. But we tried to get that done right. We just felt like we had an obligation to make sure that our team played with class.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, so my next question is it harder to win or lose with class? What's your experience? Is it harder to have class in winning, or is it harder to have class in losing, or does it depend?
I think it generally, for most people, it's harder when you lose. There are a lot of times that we as coaches at Miller, we would talk about, hey, after the game, this is what's going to happen. And I did an itinerary. We tried to cover everything from the time they came to us, say at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of a game, till the time that they got off the bus after the game, if we were traveling or whatever, exactly what was going to happen, exactly who did what, and all those kind of things. So we tried to cover everything in it. And I would do this a lot of times, sometimes maybe on a Thursday afternoon after practice when we were fishing tournaments. Now, tomorrow night after the game, here's what's going to happen after the game. We win the game, we're going to shake hands with them. You congratulate them for their efforts and all that kind of stuff. If we lose, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do it right, and we're going to get that thing done. And so I think maybe it was harder then because a lot of times when you lose, you're really upset.
Yeah,
I understand that, and there was times after games we would talk to the opposing coaches for a few minutes. There were times they were really upset after the game, and you just kind of know. It's kind of like when your wife's mad at you. Do you need to say something now and talk to her now, or would you be better off just to go on the other side of the house for a couple of hours and let her calm down? So sometimes you just understood that we just congratulate them on a good game and kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, that's a great reminder about the importance of class. Thanks for that. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Avizo Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avizogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.